Next, some legislative information like children with special education needs. So in India, a learner with special education needs is defined variously in different documents. So for example, a child with special education needs in a district primary education program document is defined as a child with disability, namely visual, hearing, locomotor, and intellectual. However, the country report and the NCRT UNESCO Regional Workshop report titled Assessment of Needs for Inclusive Education states that special education needs goes beyond physical or mental disability. So typically in the district primary education program, children's special needs are those children who have physical deficits, who might have physical deficits, which is like visual, hearing, locomotor, or mental deficits like intellectual disability or ADHD, special learning disorder, it, autism, etc. And but however, in this particular report, that is the NCRT UNESCO report, it includes more than just children with locomotor deficits or mental deficits. So it also refers to the large proportion of children in the school age belonging to the groups of child labor, street children, victims of natural catastrophes and social conflicts, and those in extreme social and economic deprivation. So, those who are in the lower socio-economic strata, those who are neglected, those who do not get opportunity to study. These children constitute the bulk of dropouts from the school system. And the Department of Education of groups with special needs in the NCRT itself initiates programs for meeting the learning needs of the disabled and the socially disadvantaged and marginalized, such as the SCs, STs, and minorities. And in the 1970s, the government launched the centrally sponsored scheme of integrated education for disabled children. As you would know, the current criteria requires that children with special needs be also put in mainstream schools. Like if they can adjust, it's best if they are put in mainstream schools as well with the help of special educators. So the idea is not to segregate children, like the neuroatypical children from the neurotypical children. Why? Because also like every child must be acquainted with every different type of child, and also when a child with special needs is studying in a mainstream school, the kind of behavior that this child is getting to model are going to help the child develop appropriate behaviors. So if the child is put in a special school, the surrounding children are not going to basically show the appropriate behaviors. So modeling of behavior will not happen very appropriately. Modeling means imitation, like देख के जो behavior हम लोग करते हैं basically. So in a special needs school where children are mostly with special needs, the kind of modeling, the kind of learning won't be that appropriate. But if they are in a mainstream school, they'll be able to moderate appropriate behavior. So now there is an urge to let all the schools keep an accommodation for special for children with special needs. Rather, the school must appoint a special educator or special educators in that case, so that all these children can be integrated in mainstream schools also. The objective was to integrate children with disabilities in the general community at all levels as equal partners to prepare them for normal development and to enable them to face life with courage and confidence. The cardinal feature of the scheme was the liaison between regular and special schools to reinforce the integration process. Next, I'm coming to children with special needs. I'm starting with children with intellectual disability. Previously, it was known as mental retardation. Now, mental retardation is no longer used. The term that we use to define children with low IQ is intellectual disability. So जिन बच्चों का IQ 70 से नीचे आता है उनको हम लोग ये इंटेलेक्चुअल डिसेबिलिटी के ग्रुप में रखते हैं. So we include children whose IQ is below 70 in the intellectual disability group. But remember, abhi it's not just IQ, it is also SQ that we have to take into consideration. मतलब सिर्फ IQ ही नहीं SQ भी लेना पड़ेगा. SQ होता है social quotient, that is the adaptive functioning of the child. So we have to take into consideration the adaptive functioning of the child as well. So first, let me just read out the criteria, and this itself will clear a lot of doubts. So intellectual disability is a disorder with onset during the developmental period. तो developmental period कौन सा होता है? 15 साल तक, जब तक vertical growth of intelligence happens. So it is considered that the vertical growth of intelligence typically happens till 15 years of age or 12 years of age. So there is a debate whether it's 12 or whether it's 15, but it's not more than 15, definitely. Okay, so that particular period is known as the developmental period. And intellectual disability is pretty obvious right in the beginning years of the child itself. बहुत छोटे से it's very evident अगर उसको intellectual disability है. ऐसा कभी नहीं है कि the child has been doing pretty well till 15 years of age and suddenly the child is now unable to cope with studies or unable to understand studies, behaving as if the child is having intellectual disability. So then it's some other reason. It could be some other reason. It could be organic reason. It could be some other psychiatric disorder. But definitely intellectual disability का diagnosis कभी भी adult age में नहीं होता है. हमेशा बहुत ही कम age में ही हो जाता है. Within 6 years, it is very obvious. We can understand intellectual disability है या नहीं. But still, जो भी हमारे पास IQ टेस्ट वगैरह है वो स्टार्ट होते हैं फ्रॉम 6 years of age. बेसिक जो है WISC 4 is could be considered to be a very standardized test, that is Wechsler's intelligence scale for children. So that one starts from 6. But yeah, again, if there are doubts, then you can go to WPPSI. So there is a preschoolers intellectual disability test also for Wechsler. Okay, it's known as WPPSI. So these tests are there. Okay, so definitely the diagnosis can be made at a very early stage. That is what I want to say. And all these diagnoses basically, be it of intellectual disability, be it of autism, be it of specific learning disability, be it of ADHD, all these diagnoses must be made within the developmental period itself. Okay, so that is one thing which all of you must keep in mind.